Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Sport Talk. I'm your host, Evan, and today I'm joined with Joel. And today we're going to be talking some NFL football. We're going to be giving our Week 5 recap heading into Week 6. But before we dive into it, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at sport.talkpodcast. Like this episode and subscribe to our channel. And we'll dive straight into it with the Thursday night game. It was Colts Broncos, and this might have been the worst game of football I have ever seen in my life. The game was 12-9. There was no touchdowns scored. I'm not even going to list the stats because they're all just really bad, but it was a very poor game.
Can we just be honest with ourselves here? These Thursday night games have been by far the worst games of the year. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
I know we aren't talking about it yet, but last night's game between the Bears and the Commanders was worse than this one that we're talking about right now. Like, these past 2 weeks of Thursday night football have been incredibly low. Like, the Broncos offense can't do anything, and Russ with his whole Broncos country let's ride, it's not working. It's looked bad, and the Colts can't hold up for Matt Ryan at all either. It's been bad. That's all you can say about it.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Colts offensive line, because last year they were one of the better ones in the league.
I know they lost a decent amount for free agency, but yeah. I know they lost at least one. I know one person for sure that went to the Giants. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I know he's there. I think he's their starting right guard for the Giants right now. Might be Glasnow, maybe. But I know they've lost a decent amount of pieces to injury, and then this past offseason, losing some guys. But it's definitely, like you said, they used to be up here, but now their offensive line is clear down here, and it's been. And it shows, because, I mean, look at Matt Ryan. He has double-digit fumbles through 5 weeks. That's insane. How is that possible?
I have no idea.
I saw that stat when they pulled up 9, and then he had a fumble. I think it was either 2 drives after or even that drive. It's unreal to think about. But that game was just it was cool seeing the defenses work, though, because those 2 defenses are obviously 2 of the top defenses in the league. Especially, you get to see Patrick Surtain go match up between him and Michael Pittman all night.
Yeah.
And Patrick Surtain is easily a top 5 corner in the league. There's no doubt in my mind.
Rank him. Yeah, I think he's top 5 too, for sure.
Especially the way this year has gone.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, he's been amazing.
And he's only in his 2nd year too, which is insane to think about.
Yeah, he could be number 2 next year.
Oh, absolutely. Who would you say is top 5 this year right now?
Surtain, Terrell.
Yep.
I would say Ramsey, but he's been struggling this year.
Buddy, name value, you'll probably put him in that top 5.
Yeah, Trayvon Diggs.
Yep. Okay.
Jair.
I was gonna say Jair.
And is that 5?
That's 5.
Diggs, Jair. Yeah, so that would probably be my 5. But I'd have Ramsey at 5. He's been the worst out of that list.
Honestly, I like your list a lot. For me, I would say no particular order, but it's you got Surtain. You got Jair. You got AJ Terrell. Darius Slay has been a stud.
Slay. Yeah, I forgot about Slay. Yeah.
Darius.
Oh, yeah, I'd put Slay in there.
I would say Slay has been he's been a stud all year. He locked up Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was clamped that night. And it's crazy to think about, because Justin Jefferson right now competing to be between him and Cooper Kupp, those are the 2 receivers right now. Surtain, Terrell, Jair, Darius Slay. I honestly, after last year, I have bitter taste with Diggs in my mouth. right now.
Yeah.
Because
he's been better in coverage this year, I think.
He has looked a lot better. So I would probably give him I'm going to probably say Ramsey at my 5.
Mm-hmm.
But having Diggs as a close 5, 6 in that range, because really, like you said, Jalen Ramsey has not looked that good this year.
No,
but yeah, I mean, they really like. I feel like that game was strictly based off defense. The defenses controlled that game, and Baron Browning had the highest pass rush rating last week.
He's pretty good.
He's
not a bad linebacker.
No, not at all. You don't hear a whole lot about him either.
Mm-hmm.
But some of those plays, he perfectly timed those pass rushes, and then getting that little move in.
Wasn't it like they ran like I don't know if it was like a toss or like an outside, and he just got there like immediately.
Oh, it was insane. I think I know what play you're talking about, but he had like 2 or 3 of those that night too. It was insane. It was just insane seeing like the Broncos pass rush, even without they were missing a piece too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, plus like both teams are out, like they're starting running back Devonte and Taylor didn't play.
So JT, yeah. I mean, honestly, Matt, I don't know that. Like we said, that defense, it was definitely a defensive game. You can not say anything else about that game. They really should have ran the ball rather than targeting Stephon Gilmore 2 times in the red zone.
Yeah, that was stupid.
Why? Richard Sherman was spoke very in favor of that move following the game. I was laughing so hard at that.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting flashbacks from the Super Bowl when that exact same thing happened pretty much. So I understand where he's coming from.
I do too, because they should have won that Super Bowl. You have Marshawn Lynch, you should have won that Super Bowl. Just give him the ball. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. The more exciting game was the Giants and Packers, the London game. That was an early one, but I didn't really watch much of it because I was like not awake at the time, but I still got I watched some of the highlights and everything. But the Giants were like running the ball really well. Obviously, Saquon had a good day, 70 yards, 1 touchdown, 5.4 yards per carry. And then they had 2 other touchdowns by just some backups on the goal line packages, it looks like.
Yeah.
But I mean, are the Giants legit? Because they were, what were they, 4-1 coming into this? No, they were 3-1.
They were 3-1 heading into that game.
3-1 coming into the week, and now they're
4-1.
I did not think I'd be saying that the Giants were 4-1 coming into this year.
I think that game, big time, was dependent on the idea of who came into the game more. I'm trying to find the word to say this, but more ready. They were more. I'm struggling to find this word, but it's they were more prepared. Not prepared, but they were more prepared, and they had the momentum, so to say. They were energized. I think Brian Daboll, Coach of the Year, no doubt in my mind. Easy. Yeah. There's nobody else I would pick over Brian Daboll right now. And honestly, Saquon said at the beginning of the year that he was going to prove that he's the top running back in the league, and right now he is proving it.
Mm-hmm.
He has played so well, and I know Nick Chubb has been a stud. I'm not taking anything away from Nick Chubb, but Saquon Barkley has looked like the prime Saquon Barkley that we've been looking for the past couple of years. Especially coming off an injury like he was, he has looked the best he has looked in 2-3 years now since his rookie season. It's awesome to see, because we weren't if you look at it from a fantasy perspective, you're so worried about, oh, when's the injury coming? And he got injured in this game too.
Yeah, it was a shoulder injury.
Yeah, he left the game for a little bit and came right back in, scored a touchdown for him, and it changed the momentum of the game. And I feel like that's a big step for them. And Saquon is a big piece of their offense. Like the fact that they're paying Kennedy Golladay the amount they are, and he's just sitting on the bench, but he's also hurt, but he's still sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
That tells you a little bit of what Brian Dable is doing. And honestly, you haven't seen near as many turnovers with Daniel Jones this year either. Daniel Jones looks a lot better than what he did last year under Judge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whole Giants team is like kind of like turning a new leaf right now because, like you said, Saquon's been vintage Saquon, like what we've been robbed of the last couple of years. Daniel Jones is he's not a great quarterback by any means, but he like this game he was 21 for 27, 217, like very accurate, very clean game. And I mean, he's like getting the job done, which is good. They still have, like you said, Kenny Golladay as just a non-factor on that team. But I think the Giants they're looking like a pretty solid team. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs just because of how good that division's been lately. But it definitely, like, if you're a Giants fan, definitely an encouraging start coming off of like the last couple of years that they had.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think the Giants they're pretty solid. Yeah, I agree. I think Dable should the front runner for Coach of the Year right now. I think if the Giants like keep up this pace, I think it's a no-brainer.
Well, and you also got to give the credit to the defense. That defense, nobody expected them to be any good, and they were making plays and plays and plays. Like that final drive for the Packers that they had, batting away 2 of the 4 downs. That's huge. And they were back-to-back plays too. Xavier McKinney knocked one down, and on the 3rd down play, it almost got intercepted too. Their defense plays with energy, and Dable provides that energy for them. I feel like it's like that underdog mindset. You know what I mean? Nobody expects them to be good. So, and it's cool seeing the underdog like go in and take care of business.
Yeah, they got nothing to lose, really. But for the Packers, I mean, that's kind of it's a disappointing loss because, like you said, they had it, but they had those 2 balls batted down there towards at the end of the game. But this one, they threw the ball more than they had past weeks because they've been really run heavy lately. But they kind of spread the ball around a little bit. Like Randall Cobb had 7 catches, Lazard had 4. Dobbs had 3, Tanya had 4. So like they really, like Aaron Rodgers kind of spread the ball a lot more than just like feeding Jones and Dillon into the ground.
And I feel like right now, I feel like Aaron Rodgers is trying to find that guy, and it's looking like it's going to be it's looking more and more like it's going to be Lazard and Dobbs. I love Romeo Dobbs. Dobbs is going to be a stud. I'm calling it right now. You guys can quote me on this one. Dobbs is going to be a stud. I really like Dobbs a lot, but like Aaron Rodgers' deep ball that game, it was non-existent. He missed so much, dude. Had so many opportunities. It was rough to watch at times, seeing like top tier Aaron Rodgers, and it was just like misplays. You had potential, which I mean that's going to happen, and you can't really do a whole lot about it. But I feel like we don't need to worry too much about them. It's just a matter of him finding his guys, which is taking a little longer than I thought it would be. But I feel like there's 2 for sure that are emerging, along with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon.
Yeah, I mean, we expected the Packers to get to like a little bit of a slower start just because they lost like Devonte Adams, and like that's obviously like a huge loss. So we it was going to take them a while to like kind of get in the flow and, like you said, find that like go-to guy. So, but I do think they're getting to that point. But obviously, like none of them are Devonte Adams, so it's still like a big gap.
You can't, as Patrick Mahomes said with Tyreek Hill, you can't replace like a Tyreek Hill. You can't replace a Devonte Adams.
Yeah.
It's impossible to replace a Devonte, but you have the guys, you have the supporting cast right now. I know they're young, but you have the supporting cast that can make it work.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a point that we both agree on with that.
Yeah, I think they have some guys, but it's just like building that chemistry and finding that like that connection and who's gonna like emerge as Rodgers' like favorite targets will be interesting to see going throughout the season. All right. Next is we'll talk about the Chargers and Browns game. That was a close one. Chargers squeaked it out 30-28. I didn't really watch much of this game, so Joel, I'll let you talk about it a little bit more. But just off like base stats, Eckler's kind of coming back in like vintage mode.
Eckler has looked these past 2 weeks has been insane. Getting his touches and he's making those touches count. It's obvious, and I love the play. I love the team, the offensive team that they have, but that defense still can't do anything. That defense has been so bad. They still can't stop the run. Nick Chubb had a day, and Kareem Hunt was good too.
Yeah, Chubb had 134 and 2 touchdowns, and Kareem Hunt had 47 and a touchdown.
Like you gave so much money on that defense to try and improve them, and oh my goodness, that they still got the worst run defense in the league.
Crazy.
It's insane to think about because they spent so much money. J.C. Jackson, I mean, I love J.C. Jackson, but they put in so much money to get like Khalil Mack, Sebastian Joseph Day, like guys like that.
Yeah.
It's insane. Their offense, they have a team that could win now. But I feel like the play, Staley, I don't know who all watched this end of the game, but Brandon Staley going for it on 4th down in their own territory with little under a minute left, or about a minute to under a minute left. Don't get it. And they give the ball to the Browns, and they'll only have to move like 5 yards. I understand you're an analytical guy, like making these play calls, but just punt the ball.
Yeah.
Make Jacoby Brissett, the backup quarterback, work down the field. They are extremely lucky that Cade York missed that kick.
Yeah, very lucky.
Because the amount of crap that they would have got after that game for not, it's like Keenan Allen. He put on Twitter. He said, "What are we doing?" He straight up put on Twitter after that play call, "What are we doing?"
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not good at all. It's crazy to think. Like I said, I understand the analytical. You like the percentage wise of getting the first down on that play is high, but you have to understand scenarios. Like it's 4th and 3 and you're like at the 50, 45, 50. Just punt it. The Chargers are lucky that they snuck out with that game. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah.
I mean, the Chargers, they've been battling like injuries pretty hard. Like Keenan Allen's been out since week 1. Slater's out for the year. Bosa, I think, was out for this. Yeah, Bosa was out for this game. So that definitely doesn't help them. But like you said, like their offense is one of the most high-powered offenses in the NFL. They have all the pieces to win now. It's just that rushing defense is what's really struggling. And I mean, that was evident here with Chubb having a day. I mean, Chubb, you kind of alluded to this earlier when we were talking about Saquon, but like Chubb's been one of the best running backs of the year so far. And he's really been carrying that Browns team because outside of Chubb, there's really not much on offense there. I mean, Amari Cooper's been fine, but he hasn't. Yeah. So other than Chubb, I mean, their offensive production hasn't been like great, but he's really carrying them right now.
And and you feel as a Bengals fan, I mean, it's nice to like be within reaching distance with everybody.
Yeah.
But you feel bad for like the Browns fan watching that game because it's happened twice now this year. They should have beat the Jets and they should have beat the Chargers. There's no doubt in my mind they should have beat the Chargers.
Yeah.
The way that game went, there's no doubt. The way Chubb's playing, I hope he carries it out because he's just a stud. That's all I can say. He's a stud.
Yeah. I mean, Bengals fans can say kind of the same thing as Browns fans. I mean, they've lost by a combined 8 points of the last 3 or 4 games. So it's been the AFC North is really just basically Ohio football teams has really just been a game of inches.
It really has, and it's so hard watching too, because you get your hopes up, and then it's like just thumbs down, man, thumbs down. But
it's rough.
We love it though.
Yeah. The next game I want to briefly talk about is the Jets and the Dolphins game. So the Jets won 40-17, which is like a pretty lopsided score. But when you come to think, Bridgewater literally played a series and then was rolled out with a concussion, and then they had to play their third string Skylar Thompson for the whole game. Kind of puts things into perspective, but not taking anything away from the Jets. They played phenomenal. Breece Hall was the player of the game for sure. Almost 200 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. Like, that's why they drafted him where they drafted him. And I think he's undoubtedly now they're like RB1. He's taken over the reins in New York.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind. I was talking to Zach the other night, and I told him, in terms of like a fantasy perspective, Breece Hall will be a top 10 back by the end of the year.
Yeah,
the way he has taken over that backfield, and it's not even close. Don't get me wrong. I love Michael Carter. I thought he was great last year.
I like him. I like him a lot too.
He was great, but Breece Hall is that guy. And Zach Wilson coming back. I know it's been slow, but like we talked about, that Jets team is legit. They are. I feel like people are sleeping on them. They are legit. That defense is insane under Robert Saleh. Their offense is finally starting to get things turned around. They got a great offensive line, even though they're still missing pieces. Yeah. I think they're missing both. Aren't they missing like both tackles?
Both tackles, yeah. But Elijah Vera Tucker's been really good.
I love that pick for them when they took him. I knew he.
I knew Becton's out, and then I think Van.
So that's what I thought. But Vera Tucker, when they drafted him, I knew for a fact that pick was amazing.
Because he can play almost every position on the line.
Exactly. You need the versatility.
Yeah.
It's that was a beautiful pick for them. And the fact that they have such young receivers too. You have Garrett Wilson, you have Elijah Moore, even Corey Davis is in there. I know Corey Davis is kind of on the downhill spiral of things, but having that veteran in their wide receiving core has helped a lot.
Yeah, he played pretty well. I mean, he only had like 2 receptions, but I thought he was doing decent. But one thing, because you're talking about like Breece Hall's like fantasy and outlook and everything, one thing that came out of this game that was disappointing to fantasy owners of him was Michael Carter had 2 touchdowns there on the goal line. So like that takes away points from Breece. But I mean, like you said, Breece is still undoubtedly one. Just like Carter's going to be that like thorn in his side for fantasy managers for like moving forward.
It's similar to how Jamal Williams is with DeAndre Swift.
Yeah,
that it's literally the perfect example of how things work, and especially after he broke off that big reception, got him down to the 1. He got stopped at the 1-yard line twice.
Yeah, it's tough.
Which exactly. It's so tough to like look at that and say like, wow, it was that close. But yeah, it's obvious that Breece Hall is their guy, and it's no doubt in my mind. And I'm happy to see Zach Wilson coming back and firing on all cylinders too.
Yeah. I mean, going into the season, I had the Jets. I was pretty high on the Jets. I had them, I think, going 9-8 and finishing second in the division. So, and I had Zach Wilson kind of being the catalyst of why that would be the case. And obviously, like, he missed the first 3 games because he had that injury, but he's looked decent. Um, he hasn't been great, but like, he also came back from a sprained MCL, so you can't expect too much. But one thing that I talked about this a little bit last podcast, but one thing that is kind of concerning is when Zach Wilson's on the field, Elijah Moore's production goes down a lot. I don't know why that's the case, but his season lows last year in catches and like receiving yards and everything was when Zach Wilson was playing, and then this game he had 1 reception for 11 yards. So like, that's a little bit concerning because he was their best receiver last year, and he was like gonna have like a big breakout this year potentially, and he's a key building block to like what they're trying to do in that passing game, and he just hasn't really been clicking well with Zach, I feel like.
I would agree with that. It's which is weird because they drafted Elijah Moore not last. Was it last year?
Yeah, last year he was a rookie.
Yeah, they drafted him last year, and I mean, I knew a little bit about him heading into it, and I thought he looked solid, and he had games last year where he was like that top guy, but it's very like you said, it's very discouraging to see the lack of usage out of him, which makes you think like what's going on at like training, like their practices, stuff like that. But it's nice seeing Garrett Wilson getting those targets and everything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Garrett Wilson's like an overall better receiver than Elijah Moore.
I do too.
You'd think Elijah already has a year under his belt with Zach, that like he'd be more comfortable throwing the ball.
Exactly. And I was really high on Elijah Moore heading into this year. I thought similar to how Amon-Ra St. Brown is going right now.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that could be similar to what Elijah Moore was doing this year, which I mean, and it's kind of different because what happened, like we said, Zach Wilson coming off the injury, you still got to work things out, but I feel like there's still time, and I think there's still time. I feel like Elijah Moore, I know it's at its lowest right here. I feel like they can figure something out because he's a great player. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he'll get it going here soon, hopefully.
Absolutely.
But on the Dolphins side of things, kind of one of the bigger things was, so obviously Teddy went out with the concussion, but he actually did end up clearing concussion, like the initial concussion protocol, but he was, due to the new rule, because of Tua's concussions, he was rolled out because they have like spotters now in the stadium, and he saw them like stumbling, and that's like, if you stumble even a little bit, then like you're done. So that really hurt the Dolphins because he was like cleared to come back and play, but with the new rule, he wasn't able to. So they had to run with Skylar Thompson, who I heard like in the preseason he was like pretty good and like he was solid, but I just like, I mean, coming in, he probably was getting little to no reps in practice. Didn't like, wasn't really a part of the game plan. So that, I think that was a big reason why they just weren't really clicking. Because I mean, Jalen Waddle like was a non-factor. Tyreek Hill didn't have a crazy game. They just like, it was really just Raheem Mostert was their offense, and they couldn't do much without Tua and Teddy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I feel, because Skylar Thompson is probably going to be starting this week too.
Yeah, I think they said he was.
Yes, that's what I thought. You have a good idea that this week is going to be a very run-heavy game against the Vikings, with Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds. And don't get me wrong, I think their run game's solid, but it's nothing to like run home about either.
Yeah.
And I thought their defense would be a lot better too. Their defense has not performed at all. because you have Xavier Howard and Byron Jones, and
Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, Jerome Baker. Like, they got some good pieces in there.
Exactly, and you'd think like, they'll at least be top 15 in the league. They really haven't showed that.
Yeah.
Which is depressing to think about. And it's crazy to think about because they're the only team that has beat the Bills right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they have the potential to do it. It's just a matter of staying consistent.
Yeah. I mean, they've had 2 games where they completely shut down. They obviously, Josh Allen, they locked him down pretty good. The Patriots, they beat pretty solidly week 1, but then Ravens 38 points, Bengals 27, and the Jets 40. You can't be their offense. Their offense is good, but it's not high powered enough to where they're just outscoring teams. The defense has to do a little bit for them to kind of stay in the game.
Exactly, and the only time that has really happened is when Tua was there with the Ravens game.
Yeah.
With the offense, and that was when literally Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle all went crazy. So,
yeah, that was a great game, but
yeah,
that's not going to be the norm. Just because I think Tua's good, and I think he's improved a lot, and he's been showing a lot of flashes. But I don't think he's at that level where he can consistently be throwing 300 to 400 yards for 3 to 4 touchdowns. He has the talent to, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill can easily duplicate what they did in the Ravens week in, week out, because they're both just that great. But
yeah.
It's just I don't trust Tua, or I don't think Tua's good enough at the moment, especially coming off of this concussion. I don't, his timetable is still pretty unknown, so we don't really know when he's going to come back, which will in fact probably hamper their win totals. I mean, they have they might not, because they play the Steelers, Lions, and Bears next 3 games, so they have a pretty easy schedule. So they could probably get by 2 out of the 3.
I could potentially see the Lions giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, I can see the Lions, because the Lions,
that Lions
have
offense,
the highest scoring offense, and
exactly.
like we were just talking about, the Dolphins defense hasn't been anything to write home about, so they could give them problems.
And especially if the Lions are at full force, Lions offense, like we said, top in the league right now in terms of scoring. But also you have Jeff Okudah has finally stepped up to the plate too.
Yeah, he's looked like the person they drafted.
Exactly. Worthy of that top 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, as an Ohio State fan, that's finally something you've been waiting to see. So I feel like that, like you said, that's definitely the game they could lose of those 3. But that's a very easy next 3 games. I bet any team in the league right now would love to have those 3 games right now.
Yeah. Their schedule's not too bad. But I've been saying this, but I do like the Lions direction. I think I like where they're heading. Goff has been pretty solid so far. I mean, he had a bad week this past week, but I mean, other than that, he's given them some questions, I think. For me personally, I feel if the Seahawks and the Lions don't get a top 3 pick, I can see them not drafting a quarterback.
I would agree with that.
Because I think Goff and Geno Smith have both done enough that they can they can win games. They're obviously not going to be franchise guys, but if they can't get a Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, I don't see them. I don't see them kind of reaching for a quarterback, because I think they're not super desperate. I think they're decent where they are right now. But if they have the first or second pick, by all means, take your franchise guy, and then thank them for what they did. But if they somehow don't end up with that, I think it would be a smart move to just kind of pass on the quarterback and wait till next year, see what happens, and continue on from there.
I completely agree with that. I've been thinking very advocately of like Geno Smith could easily be the comeback player of the year this year.
Yeah, I can see that.
The way he has played, it's unreal. You didn't expect it, especially with Russ leaving and going to the Broncos. You thought Russell Wilson was going to easily be that guy. The Broncos were going to be that top team, and the Seahawks not going to be anything dealing with that quarterback battle between Geno and Drew Lock. But Geno has straight up come out there and proved that he is worthy of a spot. I feel like the way he has played. The only game he's really been bad, so to say, was against San Francisco. And the only downside to that game was he threw a pick.
Yeah.
He was solid. He's been solid all year.
He has been really solid. And this game against the Saints, it was a complete shootout. But he had 268 yards, 3 touchdowns. And if you watch some of the balls that he was throwing, like that one in the back of the end zone to Tyler Lockett was perfect. It was a perfect ball. And then he had a couple others where you were just like, I didn't even know he could make these throws. Like I was really impressed watching him play this game. I was like, I wasn't fully buying into the Geno Smith hype. Like I was like, okay, like he's off to a good start. Like that's good. But I wasn't like really buying in like he'll keep up the pace. But after watching that game against the Saints, I feel more confident in him going on through this season because like I saw he can make throws and like that Tyler Lockett one, double coverage back of the end zone, right where only Lockett could catch it. It was just a beautiful throw. And I mean, there was 3 or 4 other ones where I was just like, how did he make that throw? Like, it was just a perfectly thrown ball, and it's kind of like you said, we thought like Russ and the Broncos were going to do good. It's kind of been the complete opposite. Like the Seahawks have been the team that's been kind of impressing people and kind of going out there and like winning more games. I mean, they're 2-3, which I think is the same as the Broncos, but like eye test is completely different.
Exactly.
Like DK and Tyler Lockett have outplayed Judy and Cortland Sutton, which I mean they're both better receivers, but like I thought, like you did, coming into the season, there was just going to be a complete drop-off from Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson has been there for forever, and he's been like a top quarterback throughout his career. And I mean, Geno Smith and Drew Lock have done nothing in their careers, so I wasn't expecting them to really do much. But Geno Smith, all credit to him, man. He's been proving everybody wrong, and he, like I said, I think he'll. If they don't get a top pick, I think he can still be their guy next year, and I would be confident playing him.
Exactly. They just have a lot more pieces missing throughout that entire team, which is their big downside right now. Let's be honest with ourselves, because that offense has looked good, but that defense is not there. Their offensive line still needs work too. I don't think Rashad Penny will be there much longer. I think Kenneth Walker is going to easily take over.
Yeah.
What was that?
Kind of. Penny's out for the season again.
Yep. He broke his tibia? I think it was.
Yeah, tibia or fibia, one of those two.
Yeah, but I had a feeling by the end of the year that Kenneth Walker would be the guy, though. He was the top running back prospect, which is crazy to think about with how Breece Hall has looked. But he was like the top rusher coming out this year in this draft, which is crazy to think about. And
yeah, I think giving him the full workload now is going to help him in the end, because like you said, coming into the draft he was like RB 1 or 2 depending on who you're asking, and I think he'll be pretty solid with them. But, I mean, speaking of rushing, Taysom Hill this game had 112 on the ground and 3 rushing touchdowns. I don't get Taysom Hill. Like, he's just such an anomaly of a player.
I got something to point out with him. Yeah, he had 4 touchdowns, but his best play of the game was the game-sealing block that he sold for them to get the first down at the end of the game.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That was good.
And literally, the announcers thought it was Adam Troutman. No, that was Taysom Hill making that play. It just shows how insane of an athlete that Taysom Hill is.
Didn't he block a punt too, or recover a blocked punt?
It wouldn't surprise. I didn't watch the entire game of that one, but it wouldn't have surprised me. If he did, I could see it. He's unreal.
Yeah, but it's weird. Like you can't. He's not a good enough quarterback.
Yeah,
but everywhere else on the field, he's just such a great athlete that he can do pretty much anything.
Exactly. The fact that they can use him on special teams, they can use him in their offense, they can use him to block, they can use him to be the rusher. Even like you said, he's not the best quarterback, but he can still pass too.
Mm-hmm. He could probably play defense.
He definitely could play defense. It wouldn't surprise me. I like last year. I saw. I think it was the around Thanksgiving. I think it was around the Thanksgiving game. You see him block a punt, return a touchdown, like all this stuff. It's just an insane to think about how athletic this guy is. And all
I feel like there's always one game. There's always one game where Taysom Hill will go off and he'll have like 2 or 3 touchdowns, just make plays everywhere, and then you won't hear from him for the rest of the year.
Exactly. And I really hope that this isn't like that right now, because I feel like they could use him a lot more this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll see.
He had 112 on the ground. But, Kamara had 23 carries with 103. So, like, they were just running the ball down their throats, really. And like you said, their defense isn't really that special. And they're, like, really struggling. But, also, Chris Olave's been continuing being one of the better rookie receivers, if not the best rookie receiver as of right now. And, he had another touchdown this past week, one Rookie of the Month. I talked about this with Zach and Nick, but I just want to get your thoughts. Like, how impressed are you with how Chris Olave has been so far?
Chris Olave has played up to – I feel like there was a lot of hype around Garrett Wilson, which, that makes sense, right? But Chris Olave has proved that, like, I'm still here. I'm here, in my opinion. He has looked so good. Crisp route running, and he's proved that he can beat the corner at the point of attack, and then burst out and make the plays downfield. And they love him as a target, and you can tell. Which is it's really cool to see, because a lot of us thought he was going to be like good, especially teaming up with him and Michael Thomas. But Michael Thomas hasn't played for the past 3 weeks now.
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks.
And he's ruled out again this week against the Bengals. So just got that notification as we speak. So
nice.
But hopefully Olave plays. I know he's got the concussion. He's going through the protocol right now.
Yeah, I haven't really heard much on that. But I did see that. That was just like hit his head pretty hard on the ground.
Yeah. But I've been impressed.
Speaking on concussions, is it just me, or I feel like there's been so many more concussions this year?
I was going to bring up that point. There has been a ton of concussions this year.
Yeah. I know it's part of the game and it happens, but I feel like the severity of them have been a lot too. Like in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've seen Tua, Neem Hines, other guys stand up and not being able to physically walk because of the hit that they had just taken. And I don't know why that's happening or what the correlation is, but I feel like it's just I've never seen that before. That we've had in a span of 5 weeks, we've had so many concussions and enough concussions that we've had to change the rule on how we deal with concussions.
Exactly. And it's like you said, it's surprising because we haven't seen that this amount of head trauma injuries taking place. I personally think Tua shouldn't have played that game against Cincinnati.
Yeah, he definitely shouldn't have.
He definitely should not have played that game. I'm happy that they're doing something about it, because head issues are not something to mess around with, especially in a game like football. So what they're doing, I feel, is good for the NFL, but the fact that we've seen so many of them this year, like you said, it's very troubling for one, and surprising as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like the hit. If it's like a difference in tackling. I don't know what's causing this many. It doesn't make sense. But I mean, it is a very physical sport, so that could just very well be the issue. But I really don't know.
Yeah,
it's really sad to see.
It is. I mean, it's always going to be a part of the game because football is a violent sport. But
exactly.
I mean, they've made strides in how they deal with it and how they prevent them. But I mean, they might have to go back to the drawing board after this year, because within 5 weeks, if you look at the injury report for teams, it's pretty much all concussions.
Absolutely. And in the past, it's been a bunch of like your lower body, like your hamstrings, your groins.
Yeah, it's been hamstring. Like there was 1 year, was it 2 years ago, where pretty much right after the COVID year, where everybody just tore their ACLs.
Yeah,
which was probably just from not playing football. But I mean, it's just like it's the reality of the game. I mean, injuries happen, but like you said, it's just really sad to see like the amount of them that's been occurring and so frequently.
Well, and especially with the one with Tua, that could have been like career ending. Easily could have been career ending, which is crazy, because you don't ever want to see that happen, especially live. Because that was the only game that night.
Mm-hmm.
You see that live, and you're just like, oh my, that you just knew right away that's not good.
Yeah, I mean, did you see a like CTE, one of the most like highest regarded like scientists or researchers of like CTE said that like if he were Tua, like he would retire and wouldn't like play football again. Well, which is like we've seen with guys like Andrew Luck, like Luke Kuechly, like guys who just leave like in their primes and like way earlier than people expect to, just because they're just the risk to reward ratio in their mind is not really worth it long term.
Exactly. And it's the perspective you put on it. Like with Andrew Luck and Luke Kuechly, like you said, Andrew Luck was getting beat up left and right.
Mm-hmm.
And he would have been he was a generational talent. And it was when you heard about him retiring at such a young age, it was like, wow. That it was all you could say was wow. It's that bad. I hope we don't. I hope these new regulations can help with that and everything. But like you said, we might just have to go back to the drawing board at the end of the year to figure this out, because the way this year has gone with the amount of head injuries that have taken place, it's been insane. It really has. There's no other way of putting it.
Yeah, it'll be something to monitor throughout like the year and the off season for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll move on to one of the bigger headlines that kind of came out of this last week was Matt Rule ended up getting fired after the Panthers lost to the 49ers. They're getting their record to 1-4. And so we all saw this coming. I mean, Matt Rule was on the hot seat going into the season, and we knew he had a short leash. So starting off 1-4 is a recipe for you're out of here. But I mean, he's chilling. He got paid like $40 million still, even though he's not going to coach, and they'll probably get a college deal. So I mean, he's chilling. But it just looking back on it, it looks like a really bad hire by the Panthers.
Oh, I agree. And at the time, like you saw that move, and you're like, for me personally, I was hesitant. I'm like, yes, I've seen Matt Rule take like Baylor to a higher level, but can you actually produce that at a NFL caliber level? And and that's the big thing. Like the transition from college ball to the NFL is so much different. And it showed with Matt Rule, because And I don't think Carolina's set up very well going forward. They have a bunch of young talent. Don't get me wrong. J.C. Horn, Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, all those guys on that defense, their defense is looking amazing. But if they can't find a quarterback, that's their issue. Because they have DJ Moore, they have Christian McCaffrey, they have weapons. It's just a matter of you've struggled to have a quarterback and poor play calling. Their defensive coordinator left too, and he was fine. I love their defensive coordinator. He was doing a great job. But like you said, we saw the writing on the wall with him, Matt Rule. He definitely will get another job, probably in college. But I don't know what Carolina will do to dig themselves out of this hole right now.
Yeah. I think it all falls on like the Baker trade. I said it before the year, like this is Baker's last shot. Like,
yep.
He's on the last year of his deal. Like this is his prove it deal. Like if he shows out and plays as a starting quarterback, then they're fine. But like the Panthers really didn't give up at anything at all to get him, so they're not tied to him at all. And through these first 5 games, he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And so I think like his timetable is running out as well. And so that puts them at like a big hole. I mean, they have Darnold and Correll, but like I don't know if those 2 guys are going to be much of an upgrade off of Baker. So they might just have to just sit with Baker for this year. But I think, I mean, the writing on the walls for Baker too. Like I think he's nearing the end of his career if he can't turn the switch here quick.
Exactly.
Because like you said, he's got guys like DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey, Robbie Anderson. Like he has guys on offense, and yeah, it might be the play calling a little bit, but still, like
you got to be able to.
You have to exactly like you have to make plays with the talent you're given. Like you have one of the best running backs in the league, one of the best young receivers, and you're 1-4, and just really just playing abysmal. Like he's not playing well at all, and I think. Like that hurts. Like right now, if the season went in today, the Panthers would have the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
So then, I mean, they'd take Stroud or Bryce Young, and Baker's going. So I mean, I think that hurts hurts Baker. And like you said, they really have no direction. I feel like, in like NBA terms, I feel like they're kind of like the Pistons of old, where they're like just. You're questioning like what they're doing. Like they traded for like 30-something-year-old Blake Griffin. You're like, why did you do that? All this stuff. Like you're just really questioning their direction. So, but they have guys like you said. J.C. Horn has been really good lately. Obviously, Jeremy Chin is a beast. Brian Burns, one of the best up and coming pass rushers. And then you have guys like DJ Moore, who's still young. Christian McCaffrey, who's getting up there, but he's still one of the best running backs in the league. And I've seen a lot of reports that the Panthers are going to be like sellers at the deadline, which I think makes sense. But I think they have to be careful with that because you don't want to sell. Because I saw people were like, they should trade Burns, like DJ Moore. They should just completely get rid of it. And I was like, if you're a rebuilding team, why would you trade your young guys? I would trade Robbie Anderson for sure. Like I'd get rid of him. And then if I get a good package that I can't refuse from McCaffrey, then I would do that. Because you still have Chuba Hubbard, who's like not terrible.
Yeah.
But other than that, I wouldn't take any offers for JC, DJ Moore, or Brian Burns.
The funny thing is though, I've actually heard like some things like DJ Moore is a top guy they would trade. I really, it's sad to think about, but you definitely know that they're not going to trade any of their young defensive pieces. Like Jason Warren, Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, they're not trading those guys. And I have heard that they really don't want to trade any McCaffrey away either. But I really could see them moving DJ Moore, which is crazy to think, but I could see them doing it.
Yeah. I don't know. I still believe in DJ Moore because he's been really consistent throughout his career. And then like this year, obviously he's been bad, but he's been like quarterback proof up until this year. And I think like he's still a valuable piece, but
absolutely.
I mean, out of all the people, I guess he would still have like the most value. But I think, I don't know, they're just in a really bad situation. I feel like
It's going to be hard. Their owner even said that we are in a bad situation. We don't know where we're going. We need some time to figure things out. We need to be a winning program, and we weren't in a winning program.
Yeah, ever since they made it to the Super Bowl, they've been in shambles.
What'd you think about Ron Rivera's statement on why they're last in the division?
It was interesting. I think he's going to be the next one out. Like, if we're talking coaching wise, I think he's going to be gone after this season. Because I mean, like, he just threw his quarterback under the bus, which I get. Like, Carson Wentz is probably the worst quarterback in the league, but you still can't as a coach. You just can't do that. You can't.
You can't dog the guy.
No, and I mean, yeah, I think he's on a thin leash too. As we saw last night, the Commanders are nothing special at all. They're a really bad football team, and I think, I mean,
weapons though too.
It's again, he was on the Panthers, like the Panthers tree, so like they really haven't had a great head coach in a while. I mean, Ron Rivera was fine for a little bit, but towards the end of his tenure in Carolina, there were like glaring issues with what he was doing. And so I think he's up next. I think he'll be gone after this season.
I would agree with that. And honestly, the other one I would say that's on the hot seat is Brandon Staley. I think Staley's on the hot seat.
I mean, they have the pieces to win right now. If they don't like make it far in the playoffs, I can see them considering it.
And it's crazy to think about this, but like, do they even make the playoffs?
I don't know.
I know that's crazy to think about with how amazing that they have of a team they have, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Just like it was last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see about that. But Ron Rivera definitely on the hot seat. I would agree with that.
I think Hackett is on the hot seat too. I mean, he could be just like Urban Meyer, like 1 year gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, my biggest issue was obviously just watching the games. He's like his play calling and like he's had some really stupid decisions. But like he had to hire somebody to help him make in-game decisions.
Yep.
Like that should be a big red flag for the Broncos front office that like this guy does not really he's not the guy we thought he was.
Exactly. I agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Do you think Cliff Kingsbury's on the hot seat?
Yeah, I think he is.
I was thinking the same thing because it's the same situation. You have all these weapons and you can't do a whole lot with them.
Yeah.
But
speaking of coaches on the hot seat, after this past Sunday night game, the Bengals, their fans have been kind of adamant about some sort of change in the coaching, whether it's Zach Taylor, the offensive coordinator. The Bengals lost 19-17 against the Raiders in a really hard-fought battle, but it all came down, in my opinion, to that drive where they were on like the 5-yard line, and they went for it like on 4th down and came up with nothing. And I think, like for me personally, they ran the Philly special on like 2nd down or what I think it was 2nd down.
Yeah.
And lost probably 15 yards on it.
Yep.
I personally think that play needs to just get out of the NFL. It never works. It's only worked like once or twice. It's
because
so predictable.
It was new. That's the only reason why it worked. It was for the Eagles. It was new.
Yeah, it's so predictable now. I think teams just need to erase it from their playbook. And then, so that set him back. And then they threw a good ball to Jamar Chase, got him back to like the 3.
Yeah, it was about the 3-yard line.
Yeah. And then whatever happened on 4th down.
They tried, the Travis Kelsey play that they do for Kansas City?
Oh, like the
little shovel pass. They did it to Stanley Morgan.
Yeah.
Why are you making that pass, Stanley Morgan?
I don't know.
I don't know. It may have been Mike Thomas, but why are you making that pass to either one of those two?
You literally have Jamar Chase and T. Higginson play, but you have Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd at least.
And you have Joe Mixon.
And you have Joe Mixon.
run the ball.
And Joe Mixon was having a good game too.
He was. That's the best rushing performance Joe Mixon has had all year.
Yeah.
The Baltimore's defense, everybody raves about him so much. They haven't done much this year. Like, you can run the ball on him. We probably could have scored off that with Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I mean, even if we don't go for a touchdown, just kick the field goal, get the points, and you win by 1 point.
Exactly.
Trust your defense, who's been one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Exactly. Exactly like you just said, they've played like one of the best defenses in the NFL, and it's been evident this entire year. Because for a while, I don't know if this statistic is right, but they didn't give up a touchdown, like passing touchdown, for the longest time.
Yeah, I saw a stat this morning. Eli Apple and Awuzie haven't allowed a touchdown in or it was either a catch or a touchdown in 66 offensive plays or something like that, or something crazy.
And everybody was hating on Eli Apple too.
Yeah, and I mean Trey Hendrickson's been a stud. He's been really good.
Sam Hubbard's been good too.
Von Bell has been really good too. Sam Hubbard, Logan Wilson, their defense is keeping them in games because as of right now, their offense has looked like a shell of themselves, and that's for a lot of different reasons. I think it's play calling. I think it's people scheming better against them, taking away what they're good at, which is the deep ball, taking away Jamar Chase. I think the offensive line, they've improved significantly the last couple of weeks, but I think they're still not there in the run game. Obviously, this was Mixon's best game: 14 carries, 17 yards, 5.6 yards per average. But Mixon was top 5 in yards last year, and just seeing him off to a slow start, it really kind of hurts the balance of that offense because they're going to throw the ball because they have the best wide receiver trio in the league, and Mixon is one of the better backs in the league. They just got to feed him the ball more, which they did. But I think for them to win games more, he has to be involved more. And I think as a Bengals fan, I mean, this was just a tough pill to swallow. I mean, really, we played well. I thought the game wasn't a bad game. The quarterback were pretty much exactly the same: 1 touchdown, 1 pick. We made stops when we needed to. Mark Andrews had a game, which he's unstoppable. And then you push him back, or you don't push him back, but you hold him. And then Justin Tucker, best kicker in the league, comes in, kicks a 60-yard field goal. There's really not much you can do about it. So that's what kind of stings about it. And like I said earlier, the Bengals they've lost their past, their 3 losses have been 2 points, 3 points, and 3 points.
Yep.
So like we said, it's been a game of inches, and they very easily, in my opinion, I think they should be 4-1 right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think for sure that they should have lost that first week easily. The way they played, the offense played horrible. Our defense has kept us in games so much this year.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think, honestly, Burrow's surgery this offseason has done a lot of that? The way Burrow's played?
I mean, that's the only thing I can really think would hinder it. Because, I mean, I feel like going from upgrading your offensive line and going from where he was last year, I know he can read defenses. That's what he's good at. He's good at reading defenses because he can't really he makes plays out of the pocket, but that's not his calling card to make plays out of the pocket. His calling card is to read the field exceptionally well. And through those first 3 or 4 weeks, he was not doing that. He was holding onto the ball too long, getting a lot of coverage stack. And so I think being out for, what was it, about a month probably, and not being in training camp. Because if you think about it, Burrow has never had a full training camp since he's been in the NFL.
No, he hasn't.
Which I think that's catching up to him right now because he didn't get used to the offensive line, and like obviously you have to kind of rebuild that chemistry that you had last year. Plus, they had a long season last year, making it all the way to the Super Bowl. So I feel like that definitely these first couple weeks has had some impact. I think that's really the only thing I can think of and why Burrow hasn't been hasn't been as good as he was last year.
The only other thing I would say is maybe the Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah, that too.
And it's pretty. And honestly, I feel like the league is catching up on offenses like the Rams and the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at how Stafford has played this year.
Awful.
I think they're finally catching up on the offenses of the Rams, the Bengals, teams like that. It's shown. Because you can't tell me that those two teams went from up here to right here all because of a Super Bowl hangover. I'm sorry. Yeah. I feel like the league's adjusting big time.
I definitely think they are. Because didn't Burrow mention something in one of his press conferences? Like he mentioned, like the deep ball is not there anymore.
No, it's not. He did say that. And from watching the games, it's really not there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, also we alluded to this, or we talked about this earlier, but like Jamar Chase, obviously he's been doubled, which they should, because after the season he had last year, which has opened doors for T. Higgins.
Yep.
But now they'll probably start doubling T. Higgins if his production keeps up, and then Jamar will be open more.
Yep. Exactly.
But still, like you still have to think. I feel like the Bengals just need that one game where they just hit on all cylinders, where the deep ball's there, Jamar Chase is having a good day, Mixon is having his normal production. Like the offense is looking like the offense of old. I feel like once they can get that one game under their belt, I feel like then they'll get that confidence back up. I felt like the confidence rose after those two wins against Miami and the Jets.
The Jets, yeah, because they dominated. They literally dominated the Jets.
Yeah, against Miami and the Jets. I felt like that was a big confidence booster. But then I feel like this game was this was going to be a big game for them because they win and they're top of the division. And I feel like that's been the story of their season. Like the AFC North has not been good.
No, like it's underperformed so bad.
Yeah, like there's been multiple times where all Ravens, Steelers, and Browns all lose, and all the Bengals have to do is win their game, and they're like atop the division. But then they ended up like not winning, or the Ravens would win and they would lose. So I think like the division's still wide open. I think I think the Ravens currently are playing as the better team, but like we said, like their defense isn't totally there. I still don't really trust their receiving core outside of like Bateman, even though like Bateman hasn't even been that good. It's just been Lamar playing at an MVP level. And so I think the division's still wide open, and I'm not panicking if I'm a Bengals fan yet. I think there's still a lot of time, still going to figure stuff out, but definitely not the start that you were hoping for after that season that they had last year, especially like making the Super Bowl and almost winning it.
Exactly. And expectations are a lot higher this year too for them.
Yeah.
But it's going to come down to those last couple of weeks, in my opinion. Like you said, the division is wide open. And there's no doubt in my mind. The AFC North is wide open. The only one I would consider probably out of it is the Steelers.
Steelers, yeah, I'd agree.
Yet they'll still probably figure out some way to go 9-8.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Zach Taylor after this game, or just in general?
Play calling. I know he talked about it in a press conference after the game and everything, and it's like a joint thing, is what he said. Because he said it's not just him; it's everybody, all the coaches. But they got to figure something out. And obviously they plan on keeping him long term, especially if he signed that big deal coming off of the Super Bowl last year. But you have to get something figured out, because you are going to waste. If you don't figure something out, you are going to waste this year of potential Super Bowl team.
Yeah, I mean, this team has a small window of success, and I don't think Taylor was good last year, but like this year, something the coaches just haven't clicked, or there's been a lot of issues with the Bengals, but I feel like they have to have like an internal discussion about like, here's like, we need to step up as coaches and change something so we can get back to like the level of success that we felt last year.
I agree with that. There needs to be something that takes place. And another thing I'd like to point out, Von Bell has played better than Jesse Bates.
Yes.
Plain and simple. Plain and simple.
Von Bell's been phenomenal.
He has 3 interceptions over the past 2 games, for one. And when you need a play, it seems like Von Bell's making that play. It's Von Bell, Trey Hendrickson. Sam Hubbard's been playing good. The DJ Reader injury has definitely hindered them a little bit. But Josh Tupou stepped up. BJ Hill's been good. That BJ Hill trade last year was the defining piece last year, in my opinion, for that team.
Yeah, that was definitely a good trade.
And we only gave up Billy Price.
Yeah, that was a steal. Yeah, I mean, their defense has been playing just like how they did in the playoffs, like winning them games, keeping them in games. It's just the offense hasn't gotten clicking. But yeah, I think definitely like Von Bell's recent success, them drafting Dax Hill, like that puts pressure on Jesse Bates to perform if he wants to get that contract and wants to stay a Bengal. And as of right now, I mean, he's not really showing much. And so, like I said this before, like I would still consider trading him. I mean, because I feel comfortable with Dax Hill. Dax Hill hasn't touched the field at all, really much at all. But
I still feel comfortable with him.
Yeah, I feel comfortable with him and Von Bell, because Von Bell stepped up this year. And I mean, it's always come down in my eyes. We have to pay these offensive guys soon. We got to pay Mixon. We got to pay Boyd. We got to pay Jamar. We got to pay Burrow. We got to pay all these guys. And we have, in doing that, you have to sacrifice a couple. And I think Jesse Bates, I think he'll be the odd man out.
I think as much as it pains me to say it, I definitely agree with that, because I'd love to keep Jesse around. But like you said, I feel comfortable playing Dax. I feel like the draft picks that they made this past offseason, getting Dax Hill and Cam Taylor-Britt. Cam Taylor-Britt's going to be good once he gets his opportunities.
Yeah, he's going to be good.
Because even on draft night, they were talking about how much of a steal that pick was for us to go out and get him. And I mean, just to bring up another rookie, Volson's played good too.
Yes,
I've loved what I've seen from Volson so far.
Yeah, I mean, the Bengals have the pieces. They just got to get the little things put together, and then I think they'll be right back where they were.
I hope that starts this week.
It definitely can against the Saints.
Absolutely.
Definitely can. All right, we're going to wrap up here with the Raiders and Chiefs game. This was the Monday night game and ended 30-29. Just for the sake of time, we'll just briefly talk about this. Travis Kelsey is a freaking monster. Best tight end in the league. Masterclass of a performance. 4 touchdowns, ridiculous. Pat Mahomes
he only had
has not skipped a beat without Tyreek Hill. It's crazy how good the Chiefs still are.
Travis Kelsey only had 25 yards, didn't he?
Yeah, but he had 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns, 25 yards. God.
I mean, if I'm Pat Mahomes, I'm throwing to him every single time in the red zone, because he's just that good of a red zone target.
He gets open. It doesn't matter how old he is. He gets open. It's insane. You just sit there and watch Mahomes to Kelsey, and you're just in awe. And having Andy Reid as their coach, one of the best play designers in the league of all time, honestly. Come on. Seeing that's just awesome.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm really impressed with Mahomes. Just not even skipping a beat after losing his best receiver. He just looks the exact same. He's been playing like really well, like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. It just looks easy to him. And I mean, losing a guy like Tyreek Hill, like we said earlier, like you can't replace Tyreek Hill. But Patrick Mahomes is working with what he has, and he's working with it beautifully right now.
Well, and honestly, they said, like, he even said himself in one of the press conferences that they had, he believes that, I mean, like I said with Devonte Adams earlier, Tyreek Hill, it's a guy that you really can't replace. But I feel like they have a lot more bodies this year that are more like well-rounded. They serve their roles better, if that makes sense.
I agree.
And I feel like they'll step up eventually with like Juju, MVS, guys like that. It's just going to take a little time.
Yeah. On the Raiders side, like if I'm a Raiders fan, like I said this a couple weeks ago, like I'm panicking. 1-4 after all of those signings that you guys had. Josh McDaniels has looked really bad. That call, what was it? At the end of this game was like very questionable. They went for 2. Yeah, they went for 2, and it didn't make sense to me. But a plus side is Josh Jacobs is having a phenomenal year right now. He's been one of the better running backs.
He looks so good. And honestly, at the beginning of the year, you weren't sure how much he was even going to play.
Yeah, I was fading him for sure.
I was too. I thought it would be a committee because coming from the Patriots offense, you see them still running a committee with like Ramondre, Damian Harris, guys like that, Ty Montgomery. And you thought that would be the same, but Josh Jacobs probably heard all of these rumors going around, and he said, "No, this is mine," and he has proved it.
Yeah, he definitely has. But something also to note of, like Devonte Adams had a good game this past game, but he only had 3 receptions for 124 yards, which is fine. But like the usage,
one of them was like 65-yard touchdown, right?
Yeah. Both of them were pretty like large, like pretty big,
large games,
big play touchdowns. But like you'd think that would be all that Carr's been throwing to, but he hasn't. I mean, I just think the Raiders as a whole have just been not impressive at all. They've been really bad, and like I said, it's kind of like I feel like the AFC West is like that we overhyped them a lot.
I would agree with
like
that.
Broncos haven't been playing well, Raiders are not good, and like you said, the Chargers still a lot of questions with them. Like they easily could not even make the playoffs. So I think we overrated that division a lot.
Which I mean, it made sense at the beginning of the year with all the moves that they made, because all those teams made going out like the Raiders, going out getting Devonte Adams, getting Chandler Jones, guys like that. And then you see the Chargers going out and getting J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, just guys like that, re-signing Mike Williams. And the Broncos, of course, with the not Raiders, but Russell Wilson. Russell and just the moves they made. It's like you expected high things. And honestly, the best division that is from so far has been the NFC East, which is crazy to think about heading into this year.
Yeah,
not
they've been like leaders for so long, but they have 3 legitimate teams: Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants. They're all have winning records currently, so it's been impressive for sure.
It really has, and I think it's still very clear that the Chiefs are the team to beat over there in the AFC West. It's between the teams that you have to worry about big time are the Bills and the Chiefs.
Yep.
I personally think there's no denying that at all.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the 3 teams to beat are, as of right now, are Eagles, Bills, and Chiefs. I think other than that, there's not really much.
And I'm interested to see what will happen with the Cowboys once Dak comes back, the way Cooper Rush has played for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Defense has been nuts.
Yeah, they've had one of the better defenses for sure.
Micah Parsons is a freak.
I can see him in defense player of the year.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. The way he has played so far, it wouldn't surprise me. But we'll see. And then Devonte Adams after the game shoves that cameraman over.
Yeah, he got a
misdemeanor, didn't he?
Assault charge.
Oh yeah, it was assault.
Yeah, so like he has to go to court and everything. So that'll be fun for him to debate. Now there's a bunch of memes that they're like Devonte Adams before, and then it was like him after because the whole Raiders and going to jail thing.
Yeah, he could very well have an extended bye week. The way it could shape out.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's not the case because I have him in fantasy and I need him to play. And for his sake, but
for his sake,
I would just call the guy and say like, "Hey, do you want some memorabilia? I'll give you some cash. Just forget about it." I'm like, he was obviously like regretful about it, like because right after he said like he felt bad and he apologized immediately, but just like in the moment, obviously. Yeah, it's all money. It's all
a money grab. It's seriously. I don't know if you watch First Take at all.
Yeah.
With Stephen A. He straight up said he's like, people are out to get you if you have money.
Yeah.
They're going to find any way possible.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's also evident with Deshaun Watson just got another allegation put against him.
He did.
So, I mean, they just want your money. But also, like, Deshaun obviously, like, did bad stuff. But like
he did. There's no doubt about it. But that's really it's also a weird timing also because he's just now being able to return back to being in the facilities.
Yeah, they definitely are good at their timing for sure.
I don't know, but we'll see.
We got a big.
What was that?
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. We got a big week 6. There's a lot of good games.
What game are you most excited for?
I'm most excited for Eagles Cowboys.
I was gonna say that's probably the game of the week. I would say
either that or Bills Chiefs.
Yeah, we have some solid games this week. I definitely highlight those two. Maybe a dark horse type one, I would say maybe is I think it has the potential to be okay. Is the Ravens Giants could be decent.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be my next on the list.
What else we got here? Bengals Saints, Buccaneers Steelers, Jets Packers could be all right. I don't know. I think we have a solid 3 games that are.
Yeah, but I feel like those 3 games are going to be really fun to watch.
Oh, and then the Broncos Chargers on Monday night.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that one. That'll be interesting too.
Yeah, we'll see if the Broncos can get their heads out of their butts.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be a good week of football. That's all we ask for.
Yep, that's all I ask for.
And Mr. Stacey is going to beat you in fantasy.
All right, we'll see.
It's probably not going to happen. Curtis Samuel was a dud for me last night.
Yeah, that was tough. But my team, they are hit or miss. So it'll be a good matchup. Hopefully, I'm pulling for a dub. We'll see.
Good luck, sir.
Thanks, you too. All right, well, that's gonna wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you all for watching. Joel, thank you for being on. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.